Hey guys, Dave from Nerdarchy here for Nerds by Nerds, and I'm hanging out with, well, Ted.
Hey, how's it going?
We both just picked up the D&D Sword Coast Adventure Guide, and so we thought we'd do some videos on it, and this is the first one in that series. It's there's a lot of content there here. It's not a huge book. I think I picked mine up for like $21, $23 on Amazon.
I got it on Amazon for $23.
And then like 2 days ago, I got a thing from Amazon. They refunded me like 70 cents. They're like, we overcharged you. It's cheaper now. Have your 70 cents back.
That's the great part about pre-orders is if they charge it less, you get whatever.
Yeah. So it's a little bit of a pricey book at cost.
$39.99
if you're going to your local store, and that's the only way to get it early. Mm-hmm. And that's why people haven't been doing their reviews weeks before us, because they went to a Watts store. I just ordered mine on Amazon. For $21, that's for the size of the book, that's fair enough as far as I'm concerned.
I agree. If you feel the need to buy it early with these books, I'm all about supporting the Watts products. I will keep buying them, keep grabbing them, but I'm kind of an Amazon junkie. That's where I'm going to go. And it gets
it's convenient,
It's delivered to my door. That's where I get my stuff. Yeah.
We're not gaming at gaming stores, so so we're not.
We game right here.
Yeah, we game right here. So I definitely understand the guys out there who they game at the gaming store, so they want to support the shop owner.
Yes, absolutely.
Gives them a place to play. It makes sense.
If that's what you do, then thumbs up. You absolutely want to support the little guys, the mom and pop shops, especially if you're frequenting their business. So. One of the things we definitely wanted to point out that a lot of people are probably going to miss, when you get to your credits page, your title page, there's a small little disclaimer, and it's hilarious. So did you want me to
go for it.
So it says, disclaimer, Wizards of the Coast cannot be held responsible for actions undertaken by entities native to or currently inhabiting the Forgotten Realms, including necromancer lords of distant magocracies, resident mages of any or all Dale, but especially Shadowdale, drow rangers wielding one or more scimitars and accompanied by one or more panthers, mad wizards inhabiting sprawling dungeons accessible via a well in the middle of a tavern, beholders who head up criminal cartels, and anyone with the word many arrows in their name. In the event of a catastrophic encounter with any or all such entities, blame your dungeon master. If that doesn't work, blame Ed Greenwood, but don't tell him we told you that. He knows more archmages than we do.
Yeah, that's great. And then also on the cover, we have Tyler Jacobson illustrates this band of adventurers as they engage in aggressive negotiations with a fierce delegation of orcs. And then, it goes over and kind of lists the name of the characters that are depicted. So that's kind of cool. They've been doing that in disclaimer with all the books. That's worth noting. Another thing, this book is the second book in a row put out by Green Ronin, one of my favorite third-party publishers.
Absolutely.
Because Wizards of the Coast, aside from the core books, they've been farming everything out.
Right.
I hope they continue their relationship with Green Ronin. They put out my other favorite tabletop RPG, which is Mutants and Masterminds. Also, while Ted was reading that, I just picked up on something that I didn't notice before, and there's a bibliography in the very beginning here, and it basically says all the sources that heavily influenced this book.
Right.
Now, basically, you have to go through 103 pages of stuff about Forgotten Realms before you can get to the meat and potatoes and the crunch.
Well, that leads to the two different reasons for buying this book. Aside from supporting Watts and supporting your local gaming shop, there's two reasons to buy this book. Number one, you're interested in Forgotten Realms and you want to run the adventures that are included herein.
Well, there's no adventures here, but the backdrop.
Okay, so
you want to use this setting.
Yeah, you want to use the setting. We don't play Forgotten Realms. We have, for as long as Dave and I have been gaming together, we've pretty much 90% of the time used a homebrew setting. We make our own stuff.
There's only like two settings in my opinion that are worthy of playing.
We've done Eberron and Dark Sun.
Yeah. Other than that, we homebrew it.
I love reading Forgotten Realms novels. It's enjoyable, but as the internet loves to say, it's forgettable realms.
I think that's just us and Ryan.
Oh, I've seen other people do it as well.
Well, it's just your generic fantasy setting.
Right, and there's a lot of good stuff about it. So if you want to play in Forgotten Realms, here's your start into into that world, and it's a great bit of RP there. Now, if you don't want to play Forgotten Realms, there's a lot of very useful stuff here that you can import the pieces that you want into your world, organizations, places, people, whatever have you.
Now, we've both heard complaints about this book, and the biggest complaint was like there's too much Forgotten Realms and not enough crunch.
But it's the Forgotten Realms book. Like I don't know what someone was expecting. For the $40, you're only looking at 160 pages, and that's that's including your the index at the back. That's not a very thick book, but you're getting 100 pages of RP and world development, and then you get into 40 pages of races, of classes, of backgrounds, of spells.
I just realized something else that I found a little odd.
What's that?
I'm really surprised that they don't have the Forgotten Realms logo or anything that says Forgotten Realms really on the cover. Like it does in the description, like when you go to the back, but I would expect from this book to be like emblazoned
Forgotten Realms.
Yeah, like every other one. Maybe it was just too busy, they felt, and they just wanted to simplify and say, hey, this is Dungeons and Dragons, and maybe it's a marketing thing to not put people off that aren't interested in Forgotten Realms. But like even like what Ted said and this is specific to Forgotten Realms, but you can use there's maps in here. There's it's going to talk about NPCs. It's going to talk about cities. You could really just rip any of this stuff right out of here and drop it in your campaign. Whether you're playing another prepackaged setting or your homebrew, you could just really steal this stuff and implement it in your game so that you have less work as the DM. You don't have to create it. You just change a couple names or whatever, and the flavor is already there.
Yes.
Because they have all these really cool sidebars giving information. There's there's a section for calendars. There's currency. It gives you the religions and pantheons of Forgotten Realms. Now, I'm going to be honest with you guys. I did not read a lot of this first 103 pages because I didn't buy this book for this. I literally spent $20 for 25% of this book, but I knew that going in.
I made the same purchase. Number one, as I said, I wanted to support the product. That's kind of what we're here for. And secondly, I wanted the options. I wanted to see, well, what is that? What does that last third look like? What are my options that I can choose or add into my game? And you get quite a lot of cool stuff. Yeah,
so I guess delving into the stuff that we really want to do this kind of review on is the the races, classes, spells, that kind of thing.
And that'll be in our next video, so be on the lookout for that.
Well, do we want to just touch on the races here? Because it's kind of short.
Sure. Let's jump to those races.
Or we could do it in another video.
We'll touch on the races now, and then we'll get to the classes and spells and backgrounds in the next one. So your dwarves, they tell you, okay, you've got your shield dwarves and your gold dwarves, and that really is your mountain and your hill. But it gives you the breakdown if you want to play a Dorgar, which is pretty cool. They're con and strength, as you would expect. They have the superior dark vision, like your Drow and your Zwerfneblin. You get the uncommon, which you would expect. They have advantage on saves against illusion and charm and paralyze, which is great. And then as opposed to needing a feat like some of the other races, they get spells at
the higher levels. Yeah.
So it's cool that they work that in there. And their stuff doesn't work in the sun, and
it's resilient as fuck to magic.
Well,
yeah, pretty much.
Saving throws against illusion, charmed, and paralyzed, they have advantage on. So that's cool. And then they've got sunlight sensitivity, which you would kind of expect since they spend all their time on the ground.
Yeah, they're not. For the love of God, they're not sort of Snurf-nibbling or something.
So you've got the the nice happy sectional on elves, and it really goes into a lot on them.
Yeah. The elf section is very specific. Although I would point out the sidebar.
Yes, I was gonna make mention of that as well. It goes into a little bit of quip for the Avariel, the Lothari, the Sea Elves, the Star Elves, and the Wild Elves.
So what we have is elves with wings, elves that turn into wolves, but they're not werewolves.
The aquatic elves.
The Star Elves, are they like the Eladrin? Is that what you're getting from that? I'm not sure.
I don't know.
It doesn't actually spell it out. So
yeah, it doesn't say here. You get a little paragraph. The Sea Elves and the Star Elves get the bulk, of ink here, if you will. I don't know much about the Star Elves, so
well, from the Feywild, so that to me screams
right.
Eladrin, and then they have Wild Elves, right? Which to me would just be wood elves, I would think, but they have them as something else.
Yeah, the wood elves, I'm not even going to attempt to pronounce their elven name, but the wood elves and the wild elves were distinctly different. The wild elves in earlier editions, they were like the dex and strength.
Yeah.
So.
Well, yeah, I do remember them, but I just assumed the wood elves was kind of like replaced that. It was like a Granganach or something like that. It was a really weird, strange name for elves. But yeah, so all of that gets a sidebar, just as I mentioned, which they do a lot of that in this book. I believe next up we have halflings, where we get another halfling subrace.
Yeah, which it's very, if you're skimming, it's very easy to miss the little. You get the ghost-wise halflings. It's very easy to just to skim through it, and their stuff is short and sweet. Plus the wisdom, telepathy, done. That's all you get. But you get all your other basic halfling traits, but your subrace that's all it's linked into there. But as someone who really enjoyed the aspect of the warlock with telepathy, I thought that was a really cool feature, and I've seen some people roleplay it really well.
Well, and then the other thing too is they would make great monks and witch hunters.
Yes.
So that's kind of cool. We have a big section on humans, but it's specific to
regions.
Forgotten Realms, regions, and it's really just names and descriptions. Which it might be something. It might be something to actually give you some ideas in your own game and how you can put some variants in humans and make them a little bit different.
So they go into Dragonborn, which I really didn't see Forgotten Realms stuff in 4th edition. I either didn't read it or it wasn't out there, and forgive my ignorance. But in previous editions, Dragonborn weren't really there.
No, they came in on late and 3rd, and there was different incarnations, I believe.
So it's cool to see, like, okay, well, this is our take on it. So if you're into Dragonborn and Forgotten Realms, it gives you the RP there. They reiterate. Once you get in the gnomes, they give you the stats on Zwerfniblin again.
Yeah, I'm a little bit it's a little bit pet peevish about this one, to be honest with you. Only, it is cool that you have access, but we can download it for free off the internet. You have it in a book.
I look at it as two things. Number one, there's a lot of DMs out there who are going to look at the books. This becomes fact, whereas the
well, it wasn't an Arcana. It was actually a published product.
Okay.
That was put out for free. Just that it just only had a PDF.
Again, I think there's some DMs who want to see it in that.
It's got to be physically
book.
Represented at the table.
When you can put that book on the table, here's
real.
the stats. Well, all right. Well, it looks like I'm allowed to play it now. Doesn't look like they made any changes on Zwerfniblin. They're pretty cool things.
Yeah, it's the same. That was a finished product. It wasn't a play test or anything like that. So, now we're to the section where they kind of flipped the bird at Nerdarchy, because we've been asked about this, and we're like, you really don't need to stat that. And they did. They statted it.
Yeah. So you've got, half-elf variants. So you've got half-elf of wood elf, half-elf of moon elf, half-elf of drow, half-elf of aquatic.
All you guys really need to know is they go through, they list the different types of elves and go, well, you can swap out these abilities with the half-elf, and that's how you'll mix and match and make it feel more like. Mm-hmm. Which, we did our video. We even said as much if you really wanted to
Now,
quantify it.
You know what this puts out there now
What?
is someone's going to be like, well, all right, well, forget about the elf half. Well, what if I'm a, elf orc or elf dwarf?
Yeah.
So people are going to want that stuff now.
It doesn't work. They can't crossbreed.
That's what people are saying they're going to want.
Well, it's true.
I mean,
But it doesn't work.
so.
With that, this section is actually really cool on Tieflings. We get some variants on Tieflings.
Well, there's, they do mention half orcs, but, it's all RP. The Tiefling variant.
Well, yeah, they mention all the races. So
we get into Tieflings, and, for all the people who, grumbled and growled at the Aarakocra, get ready to grumble and growl again because one of the options, the Tiefling
wings.
can have wings. So, player characters with a fly speed at first level present a challenge and a problem to some DMs. We're not one of those, but,
and these wings are actually better than the Aarakocra wings. And with Aarakocra, you're limiting on the type of armor you can wear.
This doesn't.
This does not say anything. Full plate and wings.
I would imagine you still need to, make your armor so that,
So you would accommodate your wings,
right.
yeah, obviously.
But, they don't make note of that. And the fact that this is in a, full-fledged book, makes it, a little bit more of a problem for those DMs who say, well, it's not in the player's handbook. Well, it's in this book.
Well, yeah, but it's a DM's game. They can do whatever they want.
There is always that.
But so it does offer up some interesting variations for Tiefling. And also, they did go back and go, for you old schoolers that are grumbling about the way they do the Tiefling now, they actually said, well, there's actually other ways of being a Tiefling.
Right.
And they basically reintroduced the Planewalkers-esque Tiefling back into the game.
Which is how we've always interpreted it and how we will continue to interpret it.
Yeah, that's really just our preference.
So that's the end of the races. There's a little sidebar on, hey, Asmars exist. Go ahead and use your DMG stuff there. So let us know what you guys think of the Sword Coast, the Forgotten Realms RP and the races stuff. Do you love it? Do you hate it? Is it worth your coin, if you will? Go ahead and let us know in the comments below. While you're at it, like, share, subscribe. You know the deal.
You can check us out over on nerdarchy.com.
So until next time, stay nerdy.